Dennis, welcome to the Building and Growing podcast. We're delighted to have you here today.
It's a pleasure to be invited to your podcast. So thank you very much, Lucas.
You're most welcome. So Dennis is one of the co-founders of easyHire. And would you like to start off by telling us a bit about yourself and easyHire?
Sure. I'll start about myself, I guess, and then I'll go to easyHire. So part Dutch, part Turkish, so a bit of a mix.
Excellent.
And being in London for 8 years now, definitely home to me. Moved around a bunch. I lived in the US, as most people pick from the tint of my accent. That's where I went to uni.
Fantastic.
And then ended up here at Imperial College for my master's. And really, I guess now going to easyHire and the story behind it. It's been some journey, honestly speaking, so I'll try to keep it concise because I could speak for ages on the topic. But we started out, really incorporated in 2017. I'd met my co-founder, Andrea, at Imperial College London.
Yes.
We had synced back up together after a few years of him kind of working in Rocket Internet and scale-ups.
Yes.
And then I had went into consulting, and then I'd also started another venture. So we met up around 2017, and then right at the beginning of 2018 is when we really started trading. And easyHire in the beginning was an open goods rental marketplace. So very different to what it was today.
Yes.
But it was a platform, a marketplace where you can rent anything from a wheelchair to a bouncy castle from, believe it or not.
Wow.
So it was very, very different from what it was today. And we had multiple iterations. And after doing our first investment round, we decided to focus on the event space, since that's what our customers were kind of using a lot of the stuff that we had on the platform for. And we did that a lot. And that was quite successful. We raised some more funding, and then the pandemic really came in at beginning of 2020. So we were faced with another kind of moment where we had to iterate and change.
Yes.
And we went into construction, equipment rental. So going from a goods rental marketplace to an event hire marketplace into a construction equipment rental franchise SaaS product was basically, I guess, the journey for easyHire. And we did that because events obviously shut down.
Yes.
So we had to kind of innovate and come up with something.
What a pivot. That's fantastic.
So it's been quite a journey. It's been, anyhow. If you have questions about it, I'm happy to answer because I can go on and on about it.
Yeah. Well, look, so open goods marketplace, pivoted to events, and then pivoted to construction. Yeah. So I suppose the question I have is more forward-looking. What would you pivot to next? Well,
I think you only pivot out of necessity. So you kind of got to maintain focus. So we, always had a reason behind why we had to kind of, change our focus.
Yes.
And in the first case, from a goods rental marketplace to an event hire marketplace, it was really kind of following our customer base. So we just realized where the money was at and what people were kind of, hiring for. And that's why we decided to focus much more on the event space.
Yes.
Again, as a technology solution, partnering up with different rental companies. And then the other iteration of kind of going from events to construction equipment rental, again, came out about from necessity because of the pandemic. So obviously the events world shut down. So we had to kind of do something, different to survive. So in the future, we see ourselves sticking mainly to construction equipment rental.
Yes.
And, still maintaining our event hire business, but we see, the biggest growth opportunity within construction equipment. And, if you think about it in terms of product market fit, we have that same product in Glasgow, Scotland, as we do in Rome, Italy, as we do Madrid, Spain. Fantastic. So the fact that everybody's on board on exactly the same contract, the same agreement, with the same technology, the same product concept, in 3 very different markets to us is, again, proof of that, stickiness of that product market fit. And the opportunity is huge, of course, with what we're doing in the construction equipment rental space.
Yeah, fantastic. And yeah, a very good reason to double down and stay focused. And you've mentioned international expansion there. So, you're present in a few different markets now. What are your views on international expansion, and importantly, how you would facilitate that?
Yeah, so it helps that we're really international as a team. So obviously we speak multiple different languages.
Yes.
So that helps because you need to localize. And that's a cost if you don't speak the language.
Yes.
So that's a really important point. It is obviously an advantage from an investor perspective because they see the scalability of you entering new markets as proof of concept of the product market fit as well, because they're like, wow, okay, you made this work in the UK, you're making it work in Spain, you're making it work in Italy. We're going to launch France and Germany next year as well. So, that's important. You got to remember that you need to localize, especially in Europe where you need to speak the language. In our industry particularly, if we had launched with an English sounding name in Italy, it wouldn't work. So we even localized the brand from Easy Tool Hire to Easy Noleggio.
Yes.
Or in Spain from Easy Tool Hire to Easy Alquiler. So I think that's important. And other than that, it gives you, I think, a lot of opportunity because most markets, depending on what sector you are in, aren't developed at the same level. So the UK is more advanced in a lot of things. So it's more competitive in the UK, for example, but it's less competitive in Italy and Spain.
Okay.
So, and we can take a lot of learnings from each market and apply it to another market.
Yeah.
But then again, there is a language localization part to it that's incredibly important.
Yes.
So if you have those skills in-house, great. If you don't, you need to kind of bring them in.
Yeah. And I suppose when a lot of businesses expand internationally, let's say they do it themselves. And when I say do it themselves, they're purchasing things and they're setting up their own operations. But your success has really come through the franchisee model. So could you tell us a bit about that? Because I don't think franchisees are something which get enough, let's say, airtime.
Yeah. Oh, it's franchise as a word sounds like a boring word. It's not like an exciting word, really, right? You think about FMCG, you think about McDonald's, you think about franchises in the restaurant kind of sector, right?
Yes.
So it's not really a tech startup-y word that kind of goes around. But, it's been a very important part of our business model. For multiple different reasons, and we've had a lot of success with it as well.
Yes.
One of the reasons is, going back, I guess, to our founding story. We, raised institutional investment, but we also got on board Stelios, which was the founder of easyJet.
Yes.
And he became a shareholder in our business, and hence the name easyHire is affiliated because we then rebranded part of the business and trade under easyHire as a brand because he became a shareholder and got equity, but he also gave us this exclusive brand licensing arrangement. So with our franchise model, we of course have the advantage of being able to incorporate a widely recognized trademark that we have the right to. And, that's an incredible advantage to us because, startups spend millions and millions and tens of millions of pounds building a brand. And we've managed to get access to, a global brand with, a 90% plus consumer brand recognition in Europe.
Yes.
So, we've incorporated that into our franchise model, as well as the kind of SaaS and software that we built as proprietary. And what I like about the franchise model is really a business partnership. So, what's different about us as well is that we're not really coming down hard and saying, okay, this is exactly how you have to do X, Y, Z.
Yes.
It's more of a joint venture. We're partnering up with a business. We're complementing each other's skills and strengths.
Yes.
We do have a system in place. And that system helps us open up a new market for each of our franchisees. So, that's important because, a lot of our, business also comes from this kind of SMB sector, this kind of cash customer market of, in the tool hire side of it, the tool and plant hire side of it, it's kind of tradespeople, it's contractors, it's commercial builders,
Yes.
folks that are just going online, they're searching for a piece of machinery to rent or hire for a job like a digger, for example, that just need for 2 days. So, playing to our strengths of having a widely recognizable brand, having a system where we can easily service this customer group, where we deal with the payment processing, we'll deal with ID verification, we'll deal with inputting that data into the stock management system, into the CRM system, stuff that, most of our franchisees just don't have the know-how, resource, or, expertise to do, but they're really on top of the operations of, making sure stock is well maintained, making sure they deliver on time, they collect on time, making sure they've got new stock that come in.
Yes.
So we play to each other's strengths. It's a business partnership, and that's how we viewed our franchise model.
Yes.
So it's really important we pick the right partners when we go forward. And that's, of course, I think a big part of our success as well.
Yeah, fantastic. I really like how you described it there in terms of you are collecting the data, you're putting the inputs into the CRM system and such. It's almost as if easyHire is providing the infrastructure for the franchisees to succeed.
Yeah, 100%. And, our industry, construction itself, construction hire, it's pretty offline. It's pretty traditional. It's not that modernized. It is becoming more and more modernized when it comes to using technology to service customer needs, especially with customer expectations kind of increasing year on year. So it's just that really perfect mix of, we play to our strengths. We're going to provide you an incredible toolkit so that you can service your customers at a higher level. And it's going to cost you less to do so. And then you're going to really be able to, as a rental company, as a franchisee, as a business partner of ours, focus on the operations, on the maintenance of the product that you're shipping out, the 1.5 ton mini digger that you're hiring out.
Yes.
So we play to each other's strengths, really.
Yeah, and look, that's fantastic. And the phrase you said about moving from online to digital, offline to online, is a very interesting one, because I saw a sort of a similar company that helped move trucking from offline to online, and there was a lot of traction there. So why would companies, let's say in the construction space, choose to hire instead of purchasing? Because if they purchase, maybe they can use depreciation accounting, for the assets. How did you guys spot this problem, and why do people migrate to hire over buy?
I think, if you think about it like this, I'll give you an example. So one of our most popular products is a 1.5 ton mini digger.
Yes.
Which people, are a little surprised about, because it's not something me and you might hire out ourselves.
Yeah, but it's got a nice ring to it.
It got a nice ring as a 1.5 ton mini digger. And actually our biggest channel for that is online search. So people generally go to Google and they search mini digger hire near me, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of funny. But if you think about how much that costs, it costs about 25 grand, about 25,000 pounds to buy a mini digger.
Wow.
You need to store it, you need to maintain it, you need to deliver it, you need to collect it, right? To rent that same mini digger for 2 days, it's about 200 to 300 quid.
Okay,
so it makes no sense for you, especially if you're going to only use that digger, for a couple of days in your job cycle, to actually buy it. Because not only is it expensive to do so, you have to maintain it. And another big challenge is the uptime. So if your mini digger breaks down, we'll collect you and give you a new one that works.
Oh, wow.
If you own it, you're not guaranteed that uptime, because if it breaks down, you're going to have to bring people in, you're going to have to repair it. It's going to take you, you're not going to have that digger operating. So, there's a very strong reason to hire certain products.
Yes.
Especially in that example that I gave. Other smaller products like tools, it might not make sense, but we're really focused on machinery or tools that are expensive, or you'll just need for a special kind of period of time during a construction job.
Yes.
And it just makes so much more sense to make sure you have uptime and it's just more affordable as well.
Yeah, fantastic. And as we move into a more difficult economic time, similar, the last time we had a difficult economic period was in the COVID pandemic when you pivoted towards construction.
Yeah.
How do you expect to fare this time around? How do you see demand changing, perhaps as a result of high inflation?
So kind of how we kind of see the markets adapting or changing in the next coming months, I guess. So I think for our industry, big construction jobs are going to continue.
Yes.
Like, that's not going to slow down, because they're just too big. They're already on long-term horizons.
Yeah.
So that'll continue. We've built a fantastic advisory board with over 100, years of rental experience.
Mm-hmm.
And, each time, there has been a recession, generally speaking, the hire industry has always pulled through.
Yes.
It's always pulled through. Yeah, of course, you kind of feel it, but you've pulled through. There's still business out there. And I think for us especially, it's going to become even more important because, the Easy brand, after all, is value-driven, right? So we're kind of lowering the cost base for our franchises to serve a certain customer segment. So I think that's going to be more appealing. I think increasing the utilization rate of their equipment is going to be much more appealing. So if we come in and say, hey, look, times are hard, we're going to bring you more business, we're going to increase your utilization rates, and also we're going to reduce the cost for you to service this new demand, I think that's going to be a really winning formula, especially during times like this. So, we're very bullish about our future.
Yeah, fantastic. And I love the reference to the metrics because this is something that, people can take away whether they have a hire business or not. So if you're listening and you do have a hire business, focus on maximizing, let's say, that utilization rate and minimizing the servicing costs. But what let's say that it wasn't a hire business. What sort of key metrics would you recommend companies be looking at now if they're let's say worried about future revenue?
Yeah. Well, it kind of depends on, I think, on the life cycle that you're in, kind of the startup life cycle, right? So it kind of depends also if how long your runway is, because I know a lot of founders, a lot of friends, colleagues, and they're in a bit of a tough spot because their runway isn't as long as it should be.
Yes.
So of course during these times, it's more emotionally charged in terms of the investor sentiment.
Yes.
So people are nervous. They're not, pulling the trigger as easily as they used to. So if you're a founder and, your runway isn't as long as it should be.
Yes.
And I would, especially during this period of time, would advocate as long of a runway as possible. I would say that you should really focus on, obviously, kind of revenues, your numbers, kind of path to profitability.
Yes.
That I feel has become a much bigger topic, has become much more important. These really crazy high growth but loss-making ventures, they're still around, they still will be around, but it's just become much more difficult to kind of raise on that business model. So I think that's definitely kind of a big kind of takeaway that I would give to anyone, especially, founders, about extending their runway, focusing on path to profitability and revenues. And also, don't give up. We've had many times in our experience in the last 5 years, we've raised $5 million to date, and we're looking to raise much more moving forward.
Yes.
But we've had many periods of time where we were close to closing down. We were just weeks away. Really, and it was just one lucky break, So the persistence, I think, is really important. You have to be persistent with what you're doing because it really just takes one conversation. And I honestly, can really say that from the bottom of my gut. It takes one conversation to turn that entire picture around.
Yes.
So, that persistence is important. So you got to keep at it. It just takes that one conversation, and there's a lot of noise out there, so just kind of focus on what you're doing, focus on the business, focus on what you're growing, focus on your market, on your product, kind of cut that noise out.
Yes. Okay, fantastic. Look, very, very good pieces of advice for founders there. I just want to sort of summarize what we've discussed so far. easyHire started off as an open marketplace, moved and let's say consolidated pivoted to event hire, but then pivoted again as a result of the COVID pandemic away from events into construction. So this is a story of survival, a story of success, and in terms of the problems that you're solving for end customers, is that instead of spending £25,000 for a 1.5 ton digger, they're able to hire it out for a couple of £100 in a day, and they don't need to worry about incurring any maintenance costs, storage costs. If it breaks, you'll replace it, which are all really good reasons to bring in hire equipment. On the other side, for the franchisees, you're providing infrastructure for them to, let's say, manage their inventory, sell, and let's say have data insights more effectively. You can share, learnings from the portfolio with all of the franchisees so that they can focus on, delivering their operational promise. And sort of overlaying all of that, you've got the Easy brand, which conveys trust. It's very well renowned. Yes, credibility, which is fantastic. So, I guess as a way to sort of end the podcast, what would you say the three biggest key? Not the three biggest key factors. The three most influential key success factors in the easyHire journey have been?
So the three most influential factors on our journey, on the easyHire journey. So
yes.
So I guess as a founding team, as founders as well, it goes back to, I think, what I mentioned earlier. It really is persistence.
Yes.
So, we were very persistent about, wanting to build this business, wanting to do it within the rental and circular economy.
Yes.
So, that's something that we never changed. We might have pivoted, we might have, changed focus, but we've been always within equipment rental. That's never changed through the last 5 years. We've been always in that sector, always building relationships up within the equipment rental industry. So that persistence, I think, is really important. And I think another key thing is, it's just team. You just got to really surround yourself by the best, like as many talented people as possible, because you need to be self-aware of what you're good at and what you're not good at.
Yes.
And, you have to be humble about it. Mm-hmm. So you need to kind of bring other people in. You got to incentivize them. You got to empower them. You got to get them charged up. You got to give them a North Star.
Yes.
I think that's really, really important. Combined with the persistence, it's the team that you're building out. Mm-hmm. And, lastly, on our journey as well, you just don't run out of money.
Yes.
So, while you're persisting on this adventure, with your North Star, building an incredibly talented team, empowering them, charging them up, just make sure you don't run out of money, because you'll get there. You'll get there eventually.
Yes.
Just kind of make sure you gotta keep the lights on. So
fantastic. Yeah. Look, three great takeaways there: persistence, team, don't run out of money.
Yeah.
You've answered a lot of my questions, Dennis. I want to actually sort of hand the mic over to you in case there's anything that you want to add or talk about before the end of the podcast.
Well, I think entrepreneurialism, starting a company, or being part of a founding team, or being in a really empowered role. You do not need to be a founder to use those same skills.
Yes.
And that's, I think, I feel like sometimes, and I'm grateful that I'm on this podcast because this is what I share with a lot of people. People feel pressured to start a business. Like, oh, I want to be a founder. I want to do something. I want to do X, Y, Z. Well, actually, all those takeaways, those skills, you apply, in many, many different situations.
Yes.
You will be really kind of in the thick of it in a founding team, or even in a senior position where you're empowered, where you have to, again, just really be persistent. You got to, set a North Star. You got to recruit the best people. You got to empower them. You got to make sure you have a budget to kind of keep that going. So I think those takeaways, apply to a lot of different scenarios. Like I wouldn't say it only applies to founders.
Yes.
I would say it applies to a lot of people, in a lot of different contexts. So that's just something important, I feel, to share. And other than that, look, I'm always open to kind of share my journey, to share my experiences, and to learn from others. It's been always, I think, something important to me to recognize that, don't reinvent the wheel, stand on the shoulders of giants.
Yes.
So learn from people that have already done it. If you want to do something, talk to someone that's done it so they can tell you how it's done. So that's a big thing. And I do that constantly. I meet up with people, I grab drinks, I have coffees with others that have, done what I want to do, or they're a couple of steps ahead of me. So, I think that's important. And just feed your mind with stuff.
Yeah.
So, I'm just grateful for the opportunity, Lucas. Thank you very much for inviting me, of course.
You're most welcome. And Dennis, thanks so much for joining. Mm-hmm. And I think, what you really touched upon at the end in terms of, applying those learnings, whether you're a founder or not, is really, quite thoughtful because, people for various reasons might not be able to found businesses, but they can still act like a founder and 100%. Be a founder.
Very much so.
And so I think, for anybody listening, if you do want to get in touch with Dennis, he's mentioned that, he
reach out to me directly. We'll put the contact details when you post. Let's do that. And, you mentioned that, often you're speaking to people who are 2 steps ahead of you, and I'm sure some people listening might be, 2 steps behind and trying to follow the journey that you have. So, Dennis is great. I would encourage everyone to have a chat. Cool. But Dennis, thanks so much for your time today. Likewise, Lucas. Cheers.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
Cheers, mate.